So, good afternoon to you, and thanks for the really nice introduction, which does not put any pressure on me. So, uh, hopefully, I will not disappoint this year as well. My talk is about gaming against deception, and it deals, of course, with a topic which is sadly, something we all have to deal with, which is kind of fake news, if you can call it like that. And there are quite a lot of games also dealing with this topic. So, of course, fake news or disinformation, if you take the correct term, is nothing that's new to the 21st century. We know that has always been around. You can see on the slide two examples. So one is talking about life on the moon in 1800 something, so which definitely is fake news. And the second one, which some of you might even know, is about the death of Mark Twain, which this news amused Mark Twain himself because, he didn't know that he was dead. So fake news is, of course, something we know as long as there are people living, talking to each other, telling each other messages, news. But when talking about fake news or disinformation, we have to be careful because there are different terms we have to differentiate because they're not always the same. You have, of course, accurate information. I think that's quite clear. That's evidenced, factual, actual news, facts. But then we have three kinds of different informations. Let's start with misinformation. Misinformation basically is false or misleading information, but it's shared without harmful intent. So it's not done on purpose. Disinformation, on the opposite, is really shared intentionally. So that's what we basically think of when we talk about fake news. So it's disinformation. Somebody wants to manipulate us, wants to kind of deceive us. And then you have got malinformation, which is kind of a mixture of these two categories. It's based on facts, but it's used in a wrong context. So it's a misleading context. Maybe let's have a look at some examples to make it clearer. If you have a look at the slide, let's start with misinformation. That's not, maybe you can remember when there was the COVID crisis. So drinking hot water will help you not to get ill from COVID. This was quite often shared, but it was not meant as harming people. So people didn't know it better. They thought it might help, so they shared it. If you have disinformation, of course, remember, that's the harmful one and really the lies. So, for example, climate crisis, global warming is just invented by government. It's just about controlling us. And an example, of course, for malinformation, which are partly true, but they also want to manipulate us. Wind turbines, for example, of course, they can harm animals, but it's not like, they're using quite often statistics and facts in a wrong way. So you always have a different context, or they're used in a different context. That's also quite often true with pictures, photos taken, real photos, but put in a different context. And of course, since we have a lot of generative AI tools around, it's taking fake news or disinformation to another level. So maybe you can remember, which is a quite recent scandal, I would say, that Donald Trump himself used generative AI to manipulate people, but also his followers use generative AI to, yeah, put Donald Trump in a different light to hopefully that. So they hope that they will manipulate the public. Yeah, so what does science say about how can we cope with this situation? How can we, yeah, maybe survive this, or are we doomed by fake news? There are a lot of studies around, and yeah, I've put one here as an example. They say, yeah, because we often talk about media literacy is quite important, digital literacy, and so on. Basically, it's information literacy we need. That's the only kind of literacy that can help us to survive fake news and not to be manipulated. So what is information literacy, basically? I've put the definition by the American Library Association on the slide. So it's the ability to identify, locate, evaluate, and use information effectively. So it means not only knowing where to find information, but also to check if this information is accurate. Sounds easy, but it's not that easy. We all know that. And of course, when it comes to disinformation, there are also two different kind of ways how you can deal with it. You could either use debunking, which means when somebody tells disinformation or if disinformation is published, afterwards there are people or even websites, the so-called debunkers or debunking websites, who say, okay, that's wrong, because, and give you the correct ideas. But what has research already shown? That doesn't help that much, because things we hear, listen, see, for the first time, they stick much stronger than even if you're told, okay, that was wrong. So unlearning something that you have already learned is always harder than learning something new. So that's why debunking is good, but it doesn't help that much. Another approach is pre-bunking. What does pre-bunking mean? It means you kind of educated before that there is something like disinformation, and for pre-bunking, so it works before you come across any kind of disinformation. And this is based on a theory. And this theory is called the inoculation theory. You can easily compare inoculation theory to vaccination. So people, what happens when you're vaccinated against a virus or against an illness, a disease? You get a very small portion of the virus into your body, and then your body learns to deal with it. And then when the threat comes, the virus, you're not getting ill. And the same can be done with pre-bunking. So a first kind of the vaccine is that you get confronted with disinformation, and at the same moment somebody tells you, of course, this is disinformation coming, so a warning, and you learn why it is disinformation. So that's basically why you can a bit compare it to a vaccination, because it helps you to build mental defense. So next time you come across disinformation or you suspect something is disinformation, you say, okay, I've heard about that. There is something like disinformation. Let's check. Let's have a look. And that's also what quite a lot of research has already found out. This pre-bunking really works, so much better than debunking. And pre-bunking also works really well when done with digital games. And now we're finally at the topic, what does it have to do with the topic of our conference today, games, and in this case, disinformation. So I've put some of the studies here. You can look them up if you're interested. But I would now like to have a look with you at some games which really kind of use inoculation theory to help people learn about disinformation, malinformation, also a bit about misinformation, and to make them kind of more resistant against, and to help them, give them some means on some tools how they can defend themselves against disinformation. The games I'm going to really briefly discuss, because we don't have that much time for a deep discussion, are really short games. So it's not games where you need to spend hours on end to get something, and most of them are real educational games. So always designed with the aim to educate players. So maybe you know this game. It's already, I think it was released in 2018, so it's already a bit older, but still very, very useful if you want to get educated about disinformation, bad news. It's a browser-based game, which is available for free. It was developed by researchers at the University of Cambridge. And what does it do? It puts you in the steps of someone who wants to deliberately get disinformation across. So you're kind of the bad guy in this game. You want, of course, to have people follow you and believe in all the disinformation you spread. So how does it work together with inoculation theory? Of course, it simulates the experience of creating and spreading fake news, but it tells you before that you're now kind of the bad guy. So remember, that's what the theory is about. You get a warning that it's now about disinformation. And something that a lot of research has also shown, when you're actively involved, you learn more than if somebody just tells you something about. And in this case, of course, you have to be active, like it's with, I would say, nearly all the games that are around. You have to be active, that something is done. This game addresses 6 mis or disinformation strategies. So it's about fake identities or kind of mimicking sources like famous news agencies. It's about emotions, so emotional response, which also plays quite a big role when spreading disinformation. It's about dividing society, so polarization. It's about conspiracies. It's about trolling and discrediting people. So basically, you can see it a bit on the screenshot here. It's kind of, like social media. Like we know from social media, you have got a news feed, and you have to decide, will you now publish this posting or won't you do it? As you have to take these decisions. Does it work? Yes, it does. There are studies dealing with this game, which really kind of found out that participants who played this game, they kind of afterwards did not they did perceive fake news in a different way. So it was something that you can see there is an effect, and there was an increased ability to spot disinformation techniques after the gameplay, because the game is kind of leveled so that you get one technique after the other. So the second game I would like to present to you is Harmony Square. Harmony Square is also a browser-based game. It was developed 2020, also by University of Cambridge. And in this case, Harmony Square doesn't sound like disinformation. It's because you live in a very nice and peaceful town, but again, you're the bad guy, and you want kind of to, mix up Harmony Square by spreading disinformation. So you're, in this game, the chief disinformation officer. And of course, you do not want to have a peaceful town anymore. Again, what does it have to do with our theory? You're told, of course, it's about disinformation. Again, that's the important things. And it's like many, many games, it's a safe environment. So you can test, you can learn again about manipulation, tactics, techniques, and tricks. And again, the experience you gain when playing this game, it helps to build up a cognitive defense. So in this case, you're again, like the first example, not that much kind of tricked into disinformation. You're more aware how this works. There are, in this case, 4 episodes, again, dealing with different techniques, so quite similar to the first game. And at the end, you get kind of a debriefing in this game, which tells you a summary of all the tactics and what the real-world implications mean, so where they are used. And you also have a kind of chaos meter, because basically the aim of the game is to make Harmony Square less harmony. So the success is also measured. Again, there was research accompanying this game, and it also stated that it significantly improves the player's ability to recognize manipulation. And of course, also, it reduced participants' willingness to share misleading content. And, fake news basically live from being shared and shared and shared. A bit of a different approach is the third example. It's Cranky Uncle. Cranky Uncle is a mobile game. It was also developed in 2020. And this game is about climate change. So all these kind of misinformation, disinformation, and even kind of all things around science denial about climate change. And it's called Cranky Uncle because you have the protagonist, which is the cranky uncle. It's very, very funny game. It works with humor, and of course, as you can see, with comics. And the cranky uncle is kind of this person who denies everything that's science-based. So always saying, no, that's bullshit, I didn't care about science, they're lying to us, and so on. And of course, this game, with this humorous approach, immerses players to identify and understand all these kind of misleading, these logical fallacies by confronting them with really exaggerated situations. So you always have the situation and you have to find out if this is kind of misleading or if this appeals to emotions, whatever. So it's more like situations and asking you kind of questions. But by using humor, which is also known from education, but it works. So this game also works. It has, even I think more than 50 cartoon situations. And there was a study, and it proved humor-based active inoculation also works. Yeah, so it's a different approach. And the last one I would like to present you, it's also from 2020, so a year where there was a lot of disinformation and a lot of games used to tackle the situation. Go viral, maybe you can guess what the main topic is about. It was basically designed by the University of Cambridge together with the World Health Organization to tackle all the disinformation and misinformation about the COVID-19 pandemic. And as you can see from the screenshot here, it can be played really in 5 minutes. So it's a very short game, but it also wants you to help to resist false information, which, as we know, for COVID-19, it was really essential because there was a lot of misdeaths and malinformation going around. Again, players have to engage in creating and disseminating misinformation. So again, you're the bad guy. Cranky Uncle is the only one who does not use this bad guy theme. And of course, again, by experience, in the role of somebody who spreads misinformation, you kind of learn something about the tactics, you learn how it works, and then you're more resistant against it. Basically, there was also research done on this game, and it's demonstrated that, especially when it comes to COVID-19 misinformation, this game also worked. Yeah, so what does it tell us? And that's my conclusion. Basically, we need to do pre-bunking much more than debunking. So we have to make people aware of techniques, of methods. Games can do a really good work here. And basically, yeah, as I've already said, various studies show that it can work. Yeah, so thank you. And this is kind of the first idea, how can games really save the world from the, at least, disinformation apocalypse, so that we are not doomed. Thank you.